I, female 29, recently bought a house and a brand new car. I will admit, I probably splurge on my house more than I should, but growing up very poor, it has been always a dream of mine to live in a nice house. I worked really hard to be where I am. So much so, I undergo countless breakups because I always choose career over boys. My brother, male 25, is currently jobless. He worked as a tourist guide before and can barely make ends meet. He has 5 kids now, and counting. His wife announced pregnancy recently. He messaged me on Facebook that there is something he wants to talk about, and I thought he wants to name me godmother to his incoming baby. I said sure, and invited him to the house to get his approval about some things I modified for our parents. I gave him a tour, and he admired my house greatly, saying things like how excited he is to bring the kids to my house. I did not mind anything about it, as I thought he meant a visit, which I'm more than happy to host for them. Imagine my surprise when he finally sat me down and finally revealed what he wants to talk about. He wants me to give him my house. I clarified whether he meant this house or the other house I bought for my parents, which I still lived in. Still has modifications ongoing with my dream house. He said the house is big enough for his entire family, and I can visit them anytime I like. He even offered that if I really wanted to live there, I can go move into the maid's room and modify it for my personal use. I was shocked. I cannot speak as he thanked me over and over for the house. I finally asked him where the heck did that idea come from, and he said our mother told him I will give him my house. I of course corrected that, and this is where things went south. My brother repeatedly said, since our mom said the house is his now, I cannot do anything but give in. I called my mother to tell him to duck off, and lo and behold, my mother sided with my brother. To make this already long story short, my whole family had cut me off and parents disowned me until I give my brother my house. My father has been brought to the hospital over this fight, and now I feel really bad. The guy I'm seeing now said to just give the house to my brother and he'll help me to buy another. Reddit. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. To clarify, the house that they gave away is the newly bought one. One I thought where I could raise 5 adorable fur babies. Family home is in my name too, as I had to take out a loan back then to buy it. So yeah, it may be obvious I'm not the a-hole at first sight, but I feel like I could be one because my father got hospitalized over the ensuing fight for the house. Edit 2. I'm trying to read all the comments and I'm just so overwhelmed for your support. I'm temporarily staying at a friend's house ever since. Your encouraging words really helped ease my mood. I finally decided not to give this house and sell the other one to help pay for a vast majority of loan on my dream house. I also decided to remove my parents' access to my health plans and remove them on my insurance. Not the a-hole, of course, but what the actual hell is going on here? The entitlement of your brother to expect that you will give him your house? And the nerve of your parents, expecting that you would indeed do this. Actually, if your parents want to provide for your brother, they can invite him to live in the house you've bought for them, and they can live in the maid's room. Your family is toxic, OP, and if that's how they see you, as a bank, then cutting you off is a good thing for you. What is going on? OP says they grew up very poor. As someone who grew up very poor, this isn't shocking behavior. Many times, family feels entitled to your success and value family above everything else. When you have nothing, you have babies to create value for yourself. OP climbed up to a middle-class mindset, and their family has a poverty mindset. If OP doesn't set boundaries and/or cut them off, the family will bleed them dry and drag OP back down, if for no other reason than to prove to themselves poverty isn't their fault and OP isn't better than them. 5 kids at 25? He doesn't need a house. He needs a box of condoms. Not the a-hole. Your mom probably thought that since you have already given them a house, you can be pressured to give up another. She did not understand your generosity at all. I would simply lay the guilt trip thick. I thought that when I bought you a house, you would appreciate it. Did you really think that I bought it because I had to? No, I simply wanted to help my parents. Now you guys betray me like this. You thought you could scream me to take my home? So disappointed. The best thing to do is to simply call other close relatives and tell the story of your side and ask their advice. Once other people begin to take your side, They will step back and apologize. If you do not speak up, they are likely to tell a whole different story to others. This way, there is no screaming matches. When they try to argue, you can simply act sad, sigh, and just remove yourself from the argument. This will help your guilt about dad's health as well. So, when I was a teenager, I worked as a babysitter. When this happened, I was 18. All Saturdays, I took care of a 6-year-old kid. He was a good boy, so it was normally easy. But at the moment, he had a big injury in his whole leg. Happened in school, playing. He couldn't barely move alone, and it was really difficult for me, as I don't have much strength and the bandage was so heavy. I normally took care of him from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. for €45. The entire day, not every hour. His mom was a really nice woman, worked a lot, and was always nice to me. The dad was not so nice, but thank God I didn't see him too much. They didn't have a happy marriage, it was obvious. He made me uncomfortable many times, saying things like, "Damn, you look nice, sexy, pretty, blah blah, today," in a disgusting way. But I just said, thanks, and tried to ignore him. Well, normally I would arrive at their house. I tried to be there 10 minutes early to give the parents more time. I saw the mom, talked 5 minutes if there was something important to know, and she left. But one day, I was late. Well, I was there at the correct hour, not 10 minutes earlier as always. Mom had left already, and the dad opened the door for me. He yelled at me because I was late, scaring me. He had never yelled at me in the past. He said that I could leave, that he would stay home taking care of the kid, because he had a free day. I left, and I was a bit angry. They could have told me before. I spent money in 2 buses for nothing, and lost time that I could have enjoyed, plus got yelled at for no reason. Well, the next day, Sunday morning, police is in front of my house. They come to talk with me, pretending to arrest me with the parents. The kid's mom took him to the hospital, called an ambulance actually, in the morning when she arrived home, because the kid needed help to go to the bathroom, as he couldn't get up alone from the bed, but there was no one at the house, so he tried alone. Obviously, he wasn't able, and the worst part is that he did fall and hit his head in the bedside table, bleeding. Thank God the mom arrived not too much later, so she called the ambulance. They made many tests to the kid. Luckily, it was something superficial, no big damage, but his leg got worse. That meant at least 1-2 months more to get healed. So they were blaming me because I wasn't in the house taking care of the kid and left him alone, damaging him. I didn't understand nothing. I explained the dad gave me a free day, and he started yelling at me, calling me B, that I nearly killed his son, that I would pay for this, liar, little SLUT. You will go to prison. How dare you, blah blah. The mom just said that she was disappointed in me and she cried. It wasn't her fault. My parents didn't believe that I had done that because I would never, and asked the police to go see the neighbors of the parents and talk with them. The dad got nervous and said that was stupid and not necessary, but the police accepted. Well, the dad and the other 2 neighbors are always arguing, Dad's fault, so they were so happy to help us. Thank God one of them had security cameras, and he offered the police to take a look, and they did. After coming out, we were waiting outside. The police explained what they saw. They saw me arriving at 5 p.m. to the house and talking with the father. Then I left, and the dad stayed. Around 6, another woman came to the house. At 9:30 p.m., the hour when normally the kid goes to sleep, you can see the dad and the other woman leaving the house, going into the car, kiss each other, and leave. Then you see the mom get home, and ambulance. The dad went directly to the hospital, from job. So he used me to try and hide his affair and guilt, and probably send me to jail, or just a big penalty fee, I don't know. I was so angry, and my parents too. But his wife, she asked for a divorce at the moment. She had enough of him. She cried, screamed, insulted him. He could have actually killed their son, just to have S with another woman. Damn, I don't know how she managed not punching him. Well, the mother said sorry. The police asked us if we wanted to do a report on him, and I said no. I wanted to leave. I was so scared, angry, and sad. And I don't know what else happened, as the mother didn't want to talk about it anymore. I took care of the kids some more months and got a little raise, €55 per day. But then stopped because I found another job. I didn't see the dad, not even once. But I will never forget this and couldn't be more grateful with that neighbor and his cameras. Oh, what people will do to cover cheating. Wouldn't this also count as child neglect on the father? I believe it would also be considered child endangerment from what I am seeing in this situation. But this, in my mind, is messed up that the dad would try to pin this on OP as a scapegoat just to hide an affair from his wife. Nice to see he got what he deserved, though. Should have went through with pressing charges against him. I've had a very rocky relationship with my father. He was a very emotionally man who blamed all of his issues on everyone else in his life. I haven't had much of a relationship with him as an adult. But boy, did he meet his match with his third wife. They met in 1999 on ICQ through the random meet feature. At the time, they were both married to their previous spouses. The four of them started an innocent enough couple's friendship, but unbeknownst to my stepmother and her husband, my father and this woman had started an emotional affair online, cyber-essing all the time and professing their love to one another, while each was going to couples counseling working on their marriage. My stepmother was even telling this woman her deep-down feelings about the relationship, a huge betrayal now that she knows that this woman was using it against her. When they finally told their spouses, seemingly timed in a way to cause the most pain, they decided she would move from her home in Louisiana to Indiana and start a life together, while their spouses struggled to understand what had happened. I've never forgiven my father for the narcissism this took on both of their parts. But he just blamed it on my stepmother, convinced I would one day come to accept them as a couple. He was so in denial about how bad the rift between us had grown after years of emotional that they even bought me Christmas presents that year, convinced I would come home. I didn't speak to him for years. I was young and angry, and I needed space. The first time I met her was at my grandfather's funeral years later. She seemed nice enough, but she absolutely wanted to hear nothing negative about my father and was quick to make snide remarks about my mother and stepmother. She was convinced that my father's ex-wives had put me against him and her, and that she could suck up to me and have the sort of relationship with me that my stepmother did. I let her add me on AIM, but the conversations just became more and more demanding. Demanding that I just come and have a relationship with him, while he's still blaming the women in his life for everything that's ever gone wrong in his life. For the record, my mother and stepmother never said a negative word about him and encouraged me to have a relationship with him if it was possible. She really believed she was entitled to have the same relationship with me, a person in their 20s who had only just met her and didn't particularly like her, as my stepmother, a woman who has been there for me unconditionally since I was 8. The last straw for me with her was when she messaged me on Facebook and started chewing me out for not wishing my father a happy birthday on his Facebook profile. I had enough of her nonsense, told her off, told her to mind her own business, and blocked her on every platform she had added me on. I didn't speak to her for years, except for a brief exchange at my grandmother's funeral. I didn't have a relationship with her and felt no reason to have to pretend I liked her. I was too busy living my life, going to university, studying abroad, making something of my life, and I didn't need them or their drama. Well, not long after my grandmother's death, they got divorced, and I finally heard the story. See, it turned out my grandparents were rich, and I had no idea growing up. They had managed to save enough money so that all of their children and grandchildren would get a generous inheritance. My father, like his sisters, suddenly found himself in possession of $250,000. In the years between, they had moved from Indiana down to Louisiana so she could be close to her aging mother and had a modest house in the suburbs of New Orleans. Now, the story goes that my father, who had switched jobs several times in his life, had a questionable amount of retirement income. Decided to do the smart thing and invest the $250,000 for his retirement and/or a rainy day. His wife, on the other hand, wanted to use the money to make improvements on their house, including putting brand new carpet down. He did not think this was necessary and thought that the carpet they had was fine for at least a while longer. His wife was not happy with being told no and decided that she was going to make him spend money on carpet. So one day while he was at work, she ripped up all the carpet in the house, thinking that with no carpet in the house, he would have to buy new carpet. He came home that day to bare floors all over the house. From what I hear, she put on her best surprised Pikachu face when he immediately moved out and basically told her to duck off. They divorced not long after. As the story was being told to me, I looked at the person telling it and said, I never thought I would encounter someone more manipulative than my father. But it seems he met his match. They really did deserve each other. As an addendum, she contacted my stepmother again not long after they separated. crying about how horrible my father was treating her and acting like this wasn't the same person who already betrayed my stepmother years earlier. It was like she thought they could go back to being old buds. My stepmother told her where to take that BS. None of us have heard from her since. They both sound like supervillains. Jesus! I hope they keep finding progressively worse people through the rest of their lives. Hopefully without homewrecking. I'm sorry about your bio mom too. She sounds like an angel. Delightful. It reminds me of when my best friend divorced her ex-husband because after begging him for 5 years to have another child, he went and got his side piece pregnant. They are now together while my best friend is living her best damn life with a new man. She let me read some texts her ex sent her when she texted him first about picking up their kid. He replied he was so unhappy. He couldn't hold a conversation with his new wife because she was mentally challenged. Something he knew in the 15 years they had known each other. She was always accusing him of cheating. 'Cause he does, but she was so sure she'd be the special one he'd stop for. And she always wants to spend money on the house while he wants to save every penny and get the cheapest of everything. Something my friend put up with too. She replied, "So anyways, when will you be picking up kid?" I ducking loved it. So proud.